Here we go. The August 17th, 2023 hearing for the Planning and Land Development Regulation Commission is now called to order. If I could please have everyone silence any audible devices that you may have. And if I could ask you to please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank everyone for joining us this morning in the chambers and those of you listening on the PLDRC webinar. Ms. Tucker, could I please have the roll call?
Member Craig, Member Bender, Member Shelley,
Here.
Member Costa,
Here.
Member Patterson, Member Sixma,
Here.
and Chair Mills.
Here. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tucker. I would also like to take this moment to welcome our new member, Ms. Donna Craig, to the PLDRC. She's representing our District 4. Is that correct? Okay. It's a pleasure to have you. We do have some minutes for discussion for the July 20th, 2023. Any discussion on the minutes?
Nope. Make a motion to approve.
Okay, I got a motion to approve the minutes from July the 20th, 2023 from Ms. Shelley and a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. All right. Okay, if anyone would like to speak for or against any of the cases being heard today, if I could get you to please fill out a form, it's at the back, and hand it to Ms. Tucker. She is to my extreme left over here. We will be limiting you to a 3-minute time limit, and after the comments have been heard, I will give the applicant an opportunity to address any concerns the speakers have and answer any questions the commissioners may have. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Soria for legal comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for members of the public and for the applicants that decisions by this body on special exception cases and cases which rezone real property from one classification to another pursuant to the zoning ordinance are recommendations only to the county council, and they do not constitute a final hearing. So no new evidence may be introduced at the county council public hearing. However, decisions on variances made by this body constitute final action, subject to an appeal to county council. And what this means that no new evidence may be presented at the time of the county council public hearing on the appeal. An aggrieved party that appeals such a decision is confined to the record made before this body. Hearings by this body on rezonings, special exceptions, and variances are quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that this body is acting more like a court and must take into account all oral, written, or demonstrative evidence presented. Their decisions on these cases must be based on competent substantial evidence in the record, and competent substantial evidence has been defined as that evidence a reasonable mind would accept to support a conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Soria. And while we're on legal comments, I would like to ask the commission to disclose for the record any ex parte communications that have occurred before or during the public hearing at which a vote is to be taken on any quasi-judicial matter. And I'm going to start to my extreme right with Ms. Craig.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I don't know if Ms. Craig, are you familiar with an ex parte communication disclosure? Sure. An ex parte communication is any communication made with a member of the public or the applicant on a specific item that's going to appear before you that is done outside of these chambers. So if you received an email, if someone talked to you while you were at the grocery store about a particular item, or if someone called you about that particular item, that's an ex parte communication. Typically, because you are acting, like I said, in a quasi-judicial capacity, all the evidence that you're supposed to take into account must be presented in this chamber. But because you are local officials and you get bombarded with emails and phone calls all the time, there's a disclosure process so that anyone can be informed of what information you have collected during the pendency of this application. So an ex parte communication involves emails, phone calls. It can involve a site visit if you purposely went to a site to view the property. That's information that is kind of outside of outside of information you could get from just the staff report, because you saw it, you viewed it, you viewed additional information that's not present in that piece of paper. So when you disclose those types of ex parte communications, what it does is it removes what's called the presumption of prejudice. So everyone knows the information that you had. It's up to whoever wants to object to come in and say, no, that's prejudicial, and try to kind of mitigate the additional information you provided. So it's a way and method to allow public officials to receive information from the public, to take site visits, but still preserve due process to the applicant and to the procedure as a whole.
I have none to report.
Mr. Bender? Ms. Shelley?
None.
None.
Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any ex parte communications, but I do have, for disclosure, that I recognize one of the cases that we have here today is somebody that I have known in the past, and my wife had a business type relationship with, but I haven't been there, so I just want to make sure that when this case comes up that I don't think I need to recuse myself on that.
Yes, I discussed it with Mr. Patterson. There's not a current business relationship between Mr. Patterson. Which application was it?
V-23-010.
There isn't a current business relationship, so there isn't a voting conflict because neither Mr. Patterson or his wife obtains a special private gain or loss, as in they lose or gain monetarily from the vote on this particular variance. But he, as a matter of full transparency, decided to disclose on it. But it does not have a voting conflict.
Thank you, Mr. Soren. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
None. None
Mr.
for me.
Sixman? And I have none. Okay. And we do have an item that wishes to be continued. CPA 23011. Ms. Smith, can I get some information on that?
Yes, sir. We brought you this item last month to continue it to this month. The applicant has requested an additional continuance to no date certain. So we are bringing that up today.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. That is the one that we had, I think everyone received a lot of emails on of the trying to not, and is there any, how many, by show of hands, how many is here for that case? Okay, we have 2 of them here for that case, and I know last month we had quite a few people in, and they're getting strung along as far as the procedure goes, and they've asked for an uncertain date, Ms. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Have they discussed anything about letting it go and reapplying?
We did not have that discussion. They do have the right to resubmit different information to us if we're evaluating an application.
Okay. And if they were to withdraw rather than continue, they would still be allowed to go back and apply within the, they're not limited by the 2-year time limit. Is that correct, Mr. Soria?
Yes. So they're only limited if there's some final action that occurs. This is a comprehensive plan amendment, so the final action would occur from the county council. The county council denied or approved the comprehensive plan amendment. The applicant or the future owner would be prohibited from reapplying for, I believe it's a year.
And I guess my other question is, do they have to republish it?
Yes,
And
because
they
it's
have-
to a date uncertain. You're
With-
not preserving any notice. They would have to publish in the paper, do the same mail outs, and post it again.
And how long does this, I know normally we have a 2-year time limit, but what is it if in the event we were to do that, there is the uncertain, I mean, how far can this go?
I'm not sure. It's usually we subject ourselves to a shot clock and try to get an application to a final hearing within 180 days. However, if the applicant doesn't want to be heard, then it's their money, it's their property.
Okay.
And they did sign a waiver to the shot clock.
Okay. Any other
Um,
questions?
yeah, I got a
Go
question.
ahead.
So there's no precedence here as far as how much indefinite time?
No, because if the application is still pending, I don't know if we expire old applications that haven't seen movement.
We typically do after a year. They do have the option of signing the waiver again, and if they do sign the waiver, the project remains active.
Remains active. So technically, a continuance indeterminate time could be, I mean, we could set a timeline, but they can also come back in and ask for an additional continuance, correct?
Right.
And I'm assuming they're trying to work through some of the issues that we're seeing the email correspondence on. I'm making that as an assumption, that they're working through those particular kinks.
I can confirm that we have had a good number of letters of opposition on this project.
Correct.
And the applicant asked to withdraw because of that,
Mhm.
to reconsider their project.
Which I think that's an admirable event. And from that standpoint, I would be comfortable with probably the 180 days to let them work that out, because it didn't happen overnight. I would imagine several workshops would be needed to clear up some of the opposition, if that could even happen. So if you're okay with that, I'd make a motion to that effect.
What, the 180 days? Okay, okay. But if we put it, rather than indefinitely, if we put a time certain, I would want the date to be the exact 180 days, because we have people coming over from New Smyrna to these, attending these meetings. And then when each time they're told it's continuing, that, as attrition, it kind of knocks people down. They don't show up, and you end up only having maybe one or two here like we have today. And I know there was quite a few more last time. Personally, I mean, I don't know if the rest of the board's good with that, I'll go along with it, but otherwise I would be more entailed to tell them to regroup and start over.
I think because this is a continuance to a date uncertain, we can inform the applicant that, come back within 180 days, and if you don't, then next time you come back, there's not going to be another continuance. There's, the commission will vote up or down on whatever you present.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on case number CPA-23-011 that we grant them continuance to the February 2024 meeting,
It's February 15th.
February 15th, 2024.
I'm good with that. Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to continue the CPA 23011 to our date of February 15th, 2024 from Mr. Costa, and a second from Mr. Sixma. Then that's it. I'm not going to, any discussion on the motion?
I just want to clarify that if they do come to terms with the community, they can come in sooner than that. They just have to renotice everything. This preserves the notice to a date.
I'd prefer it to be remaining at the February 15th, because I don't want these folks to have to worry about coming every month if we're going to do this. Because otherwise the community, because we have a lot of letters of opposition to this, or a lot of emails, and I know there's a lot of concern out there. So if we're going to do this, I mean, I don't want to keep people coming back every month to see if it's going to show back
I think we
up on the agenda.
we can express that to the applicant, that next time they show up to the commission, it better be a finalized, product and with community input.
So what I'm saying is, you're saying the February 15th or before, and I'm saying No, we're going to do it February 15th.
If I may, if they can resolve their issues in 3 months and want to come and present, then I would hear that. And at the same time, I would make that clear that it's not a 3 months or 6 months. It's either one or the other.
Right.
So if they say, hey, we want to come in a little earlier because time is money, that's fine. That's the date. Either you make it or you don't. And if you don't, you're withdrawing. That's how I would, in other words, my graciousness only goes so far.
I think what I understand is you don't want the community to have to show up to an item that's going to be continued. If they're showing
Where
up,
they're going to ask
you're
to be
making-
continued again, yes. If they show
Great.
up in 3 months, it's either to present or to withdraw.
Yes, that's my understanding of,
Okay.
of what the discussion was.
Perfect.
Do we need to amend that or not, or?
No,
I don't believe so.
because
I
we
think
set
it's
a date
Yeah.
of the 15th.
No, that's, I totally agree.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Hopefully we'll get this ironed out for you guys that are showed up today. Okay, we do have some unfinished old business. Ms. Shelley, do you have?
Two.
Okay, if you'll read those into the record, please.
Yes, sir. Case number S-23-008, a special exception for a recreation area on rural agriculture A2 and transitional agriculture A3 zoned property.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shelley, and right with you.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Ray is out sick today, so I'll be doing that presentation.
You will be doing that presentation, okay? Well, go ahead, Ms. Smith.
This is a special exception in an agricultural area. The site is about 21 acres. It's on Lakeview Drive in DeLand. They are looking for a recreation area to do a paintball facility. The northern portion of the site is pasture, and the southern portion is heavily treed, and a Duke Energy easement runs straight through the middle of the property. They do have permission from Duke Energy to use the easement. Netting will be used around the site, 20-foot tall netting will be used around the site to prevent anything from going off-site or into the neighbors' areas. And it will keep the paintballs out of the wetlands. There'll be no activity allowed near the wetlands. There will be a privacy fence put up between the homes and the paintball facility, and there'll also be landscape buffers of 30 feet wide surrounding the facility. This will only be open part-time. The hours will be 9 to 6, Saturday and Sunday. They will be allowed to have 2 special events during the week. On weekdays, no more than twice a month, again, between the hours of 9 and 6. We do have a good number of letters of support from the surrounding neighbors in this package, and you received one again today, was handed to you. And we believe that it meets all the criteria for a special exception in the A1, A2, and A3 zoning classification, and we do recommend approval. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? Would you like to come forward, sir? You've heard the staff report this morning. Is there anything you would like to add to it or make a comment on?
No, not necessarily. I mean,
Okay,
I'm happy to
I'm
answer.
sorry, I need to get your name and address for the record.
Sure, it's Michael Kersey, and I'm at 106 Callaway Court in DeLand,
Okay.
32724.
Okay,
Lived there since 2008.
and there again, do you have any comments that you would like to make with the staff report?
Only that, you know, we want to be good stewards of the community. We want to have a nice recreational area for kids to come out and play, get off their phones and get some exercise. I started doing this with my son 3 years ago when he was 10. He attended a birthday party, and he's, you know, basically fallen in love with it. So there's nothing in Volusia County right now where we can go. The closest is in Lake County and down in, I think, Orange County. So this is something that I think that would be good for the community. We want to be good neighbors. We've got a lot of, you know, plans in place for safety and just to have a good environment.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, I don't believe we have any public participation forms for this case. All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to close the floor for public participation and open it up for commission discussion or a motion.
Prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'd
Costa.
like to make a motion that we forward the special exemption case number S23-008 to the county council for final action with a recommendation of approval with the staff recommended conditions.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion from Mr. Costa to forward the special exception case number S23008 to the county council for final action with a recommendation of approval with the staff recommended conditions, and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number CPA-23-007, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment from the Urban Low Intensity ULI Future Land Use FLU designation and the Commercial COM FLU designation to the Urban Low Intensity ULI FLU designation.
Mr. Chair, should we read the next one as well, together? I think they're connected. Z23008.
Just for, you can, just because you're going to be discussing the kind of same topics, you do have to make the same, different motions.
Mhm.
And also the standard of decision is different.
Okay.
One is a legislative, so you have as wide discretion as you can. Obviously, the zoning is dependent upon what you decide in the
We
conference.
would vote on them separately, obviously. Okay, but we can hear it all at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, then we'll follow along with that. Thank you, Mr. Costa. Ms. Shelley, could I get you to read that case in?
Yes, sir. Case number Z-23-008, rezoning from the urban single-family residential and general commercial zoning classifications to the urban single-family residential zoning classification.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shelley. And there again, we've read these in both, but we're taking the CPA 23007 case first, but we're listening to all the presentation for both. Okay, Mr. Shams, this is you.
Hi, good morning. Steve Shams with Volusia County Planning. So the applicant is requesting a future land use amendment for 4.01 acres of the 10.4 acre site from commercial to urban low intensity. They intend to develop the site with 14 single-family homes. As you can see from the map on the screen, about 6.39 acres are already designated as urban low intensity. The applicant is seeking this change because residential development is not permitted in the commercial future land use. In addition, he is also requesting a rezoning on this 4 acre piece as well. The site is located under 2 miles from the city of DeLand and the National Wildlife Refuge. It's currently undeveloped and located within the Basin Management Action Plan area and Priority Focus area. The site will be serviced by the city of DeLand utilities, so it satisfies those relevant comprehensive plan policies. Currently, the commercial area could be developed with a commercial structure of approximately 96,000 square feet. If developed with this use, as per the entitlements, it could generate approximately 6,500 daily trips. The proposed EVOLI future land use designation could develop with 16 single-family homes, which would generate 180 daily trips. Overall, this is a significant decrease. If the entire site was urban low intensity, it could be developed with 41 homes, which would overall generate approximately 468 daily trips. However, the request did not satisfy the urban sprawl criteria in the comprehensive plan, as it only met 2 of the 8 requirements. So overall, because of this, staff recommends denial as it's inconsistent with this comprehensive plan policy. The rezoning is rezoning for the 4.01 acres from B4 general commercial to R1 urban single family residential. This is the same zoning class on about 6.39 acres of the site, so the whole site would be consistent with this change. The R1 zoning class has a requirement for a 20,000 square foot lot. The existing R1 area could be developed with 12 homes, but the applicant is seeking 14. Rezoning would permit consistent construction across the site if the future land use change was also approved. The surrounding area is primarily residential and undeveloped. If the entire site was R1, it could be developed with 20 single-family homes. The rezoning would result in a maximum 225 daily trips, and the proposed 14 units would result in approximately 157 daily trips. However, due to the inconsistency with the comprehensive plan's urban sprawl criteria, it is not consistent, and therefore staff recommended denial for the rezoning as well. I'm available for comment or question.
Any question for staff?
Yes.
Mr. Costa?
We're talking about rezoning 4 of the 10 acres,
Yes, sir.
correct? Total?
Yes.
On the existing 10 acres, they can already get, you said 14 homes, did I hear that right?
The existing 6.39 acres.
Will allow me to yield how many homes? 14? I just
uh,
want to make sure I heard you correctly.
It could be developed with 12.
12.
14.
All right. So basically, by adding the additional 4 acres, it gets them to the 14 count.
Correct.
So we're talking 2 homes versus 9,500 square feet of commercial,
96,000.
96,000 square feet of commercial.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Mr. Shams, my question is if even though if we do the comprehensive plan amendment and we also do the zoning, that does not limit them to the 14 houses, because that's 1 acre lot. An R1 is actually can have more homes than that, correct?
Yes.
So if we were to do that, there's nothing that stops them coming back and doubling that size. Is that correct?
Not doubling. If the entire site was R1, they could do 20 homes.
20 homes.
Yeah. So it's an increase of 6 from what they're requesting.
Right. They're requesting it for 14, but ultimately they could end up with 20. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I got to say for right now. Is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Michael DiDomenico, 1013 South Hiawassee Road, Unit 3633, Orlando, Florida, 32835.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you would like to add to it?
No, it was to do 14 homes. If I'm not mistaken, when we were, speaking and kind of doing research on it, they were to be like half acres. Like on half acre, not on full acre. So I don't know if that changes anything, but yeah, and it was to be over like 3-4 years to build those.
How does that affect that, Mr. Shannon?
Sorry, what was the question?
He said,
So it'd be like 14 homes. They'd be on half acres.
Yes, that's per the zoning R1.
okay.
I believe, sorry, we were just discussing that the 20 homes does not take into account that they may have to build roads, stormwater, open space. So that 20 acres is just on a gross acreage
Correct.
without putting the underlying infrastructure in to support a subdivision.
So that's where the 1 acre comes in. Is that correct from what I'm reading in the summary request? Whether it says subdivision with 1 acre lots on the zoning?
Yeah, so the zoning has a requirement of half acre, but they can come in at higher lot sizes.
Yeah, understand that, but the applicant has made a statement that he's looking at half acre lot.
Then that'd be permitted as well with
Yes,
the
it's-
R1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have questions.
Mr. Costa?
Are you the builder, the engineer,
I'm the agent.
the agent?
Yeah.
All right. Do you know, are these going to be market rate homes that you're building? Are these going to be affordable housings that you're building?
Market rate.
Market rate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. We'll see if we have any public participation on this one. We do not have any public participation, so we'll close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion. Mr. Costa, I'm going to take your comment, and my concern is when we do these developments, for some reason, the commercial property isn't as valuable as residential anymore. It used to be the opposite. And we don't have the commercial places to support these developments. And so we keep on eliminating our commercial space, and then we don't get any development there. That's my problem with it. That's why that is exactly why I have a problem with not getting the commercial development that we need. Anyone else would like to comment? You understand?
No, I completely understand you, and I typically would always say, why get away from commercial? But when I look at the aerial and I look at the area, we're talking 96,000 square foot of commercial space versus potentially 2 additional homes, or 6, depending on how you look at it. I'm looking at the overall impact of the area that I think if I am the residents that are in that general vicinity, I would rather see an extra couple of houses rather than 96,000 square feet of storage facility, which would be more than the most likely thing that would go in there would be a storage, a self-storage yard. And looking at the general area, it still has a rural appeal to it. So by losing that commercial, you go down, I guess that's southwest, basically. You've got a bigger pocket of commercial rather than that one random strip that's along the way there. That's my contention with that. If it was down further, if it was down around the B4, the B3A corner down at the bottom there, I would have a more heartburn with that. But up there towards that area 17, not so much. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
So I'll have to go with Mr. Costa because I think it aligns with the area pretty well. Surrounding properties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Bender, did you have a comment?
Actually, I'm kind of falling in line with where Mr. Costa and Mr. Sixman is falling.
Okay.
Problem with it.
All right. Okay.
I'll be glad to make a motion.
Okay, we're going to take the CPA first.
Yep.
I move that we find the future land use amendment consistent with the comp plan and forward the application case CPA 23007 to County Council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor to find the future land use amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and forward the application case number CPA 23007 to the County Council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion from Ms. Shelley and a second from Mr. Costa? Any discussion on the motion?
Can I suggest a roll call vote, please?
Pardon me?
A roll call vote?
Think we'll need-
You don't think so? Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Surprised me there.
Okay. And then we'll take the zoning case next, Ms. Shelley.
I've read that into the record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've already read that into the record.
Make a motion.
Just make it, someone,
Of course.
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Z23. Let her make a motion. No, go ahead.
Make the motion.
Go
I didn't
ahead.
know if we wanted to have any comment.
No.
More than happy to make the motion.
Okay.
I move that we forward the rezoning application case number Z-23-008 to County Council for final action with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Okay, I also have a motion for Ms. Shelley to forward the rezoning application case number Z-23-008 to the County Council for final action with recommendation of approval, and a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Ms. Shelley, can I get the next one, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-23-068. Variances to separate nonconforming lots and reduce minimum yard requirements on prime agriculture A1 and resource corridor RC zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. And this is Mr. Shams also.
Good morning, Steve Shams with with Planning and Development Services. The subject property is a waterfront lot along the St. Johns River and is zoned A1 and RC. The property is within the St. Johns River Park subdivision, which was created prior to 1981. It's currently developed with a 1,500 square foot farm building, and the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,880 square foot single-family residence. The A1 portion is approximately 9.08 acres, and the RC is approximately 1.08 acres. It's non-conforming to the zoning code and was held in common ownership to the property on its western boundary. The applicant is requesting 3 variances. Variances 1 is to separate the subject parcel from this adjacent parcel. Variance 2 is to reduce the west side yard from 50 feet to 31 feet. And variance 3 is to reduce the east side yard from 50 feet to 34 feet. The applicant provided a proposed site plan and indicated that the residence will be located in an area of the property that is approximately 130 feet wide. The area was chosen because it's already cleared of trees, it's outside of the septic area, and it will not impact the existing accessory structure. It's also outside of the wetland area and its upland buffer. Overall, staff recommends approval of variance 1, but it does recommend denial of variances 2 and 3, as the literal interpretation would not prevent the applicant's ability to construct a single-family residence on other areas of the property that do not require variances. And it's not the minimum variance, because there is a significant area on the northern half of the property where the residence can be constructed without a variance as well. And should the PLDRC find competent substantial evidence to approve, staff recommends 2 conditions. That is limited to the size and location as depicted on the variance site plan. And a wetland alteration permit will be required for any impacts to the wetlands or their buffer. I'm available for comment or question.
Thank you, Mr. Shams. Any questions for staff? Mr. Costa?
Well, actually, probably for the applicant. I'll wait.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Good morning, Ms. Husseini.
Good morning. For the record, Nika Hosseini with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard in DeLand. So Frank, I'm hoping this one is a simple one too. It's such a common sense variance. So you have this piece, you had a property owner that owned, 4 or 5 pieces. He split it all up and made non-conforming lots. So we're trying to solve that issue. And the other 2 variances are really simple. In the northern portion, it's all trees, heavily wooded. In the very southern portion, it's the RC line, which you can't touch for where the wetland area is. In the northern middle portion, it's all wetland. There's only one area that's cleared that already has a barn and we have an area for septic. So there's only a small area that makes sense that you wouldn't be impacting any wetlands and you wouldn't be impacting any trees. That's where we want to put the house. And that area, unfortunately, because the former property owner had broken up all of these pieces, is 130 feet in width, not 150 feet in width. And so all we're asking for is let's put the house in the place that makes the most sense, that won't be impacting any wetlands, so we don't have to go through and get all these alteration permits, and so that we don't have to get permits for tearing down a bunch of trees as well. So that's really it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Husseini. Any questions from the applicant?
I do.
Mr. Costa?
I love it when people say, hey, I got 10 acres for you on the waterfront. And then you take a look at it, and all of a sudden it's a sliver of 10 acres, but it's 10 acres nonetheless. Can we put up page 13 of 21, please? Is that possible? I just want to get clarification on something, and then the aerial will be, hopefully makes it clear. The top picture, we can zoom in on that one.
Yep.
All right, so are they taking the barn down and putting the house in the location of the current barn?
No.
They're putting the house in the location of what looks like a pad.
Correct.
The cleared area there. And the septic is where in relationship to all that?
If you Kelly, I don't know what page it's on, but the one that had the overall site plan,
Mhm.
that shows, it has a kind of a notation.
Is it in between the barn and where the house is going?
I
approximately?
believe so, but
Okay.
it shows you on that plan.
So you have trees to the top of the page, you have wetlands towards the bottom of the page,
Yep. There.
and you just have a narrow sliver of construction, and I see you got power line easement just not too far away from you.
Yep. And if you notice, what's interesting is, neighbors on both sides
Mhm.
have those houses in the same exact area.
Basically, yeah, they're,
It's the only location
it's
that
just
makes
the only
sense.
dry spot you can build on. No letters of opposition that I'm seeing from any neighbors, so, okay, all right. I just wanted to get clarification on that. I wasn't sure if the barn was staying or going. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, I don't believe we have any public participation forms on this case. Okay, thank you, Ms. Succeeding.
Of course.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion or motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Costa?
All right, case number V-23-068, I make a motion to approve variance 1, 2, and 3 with the 2 staff recommended conditions.
Second.
Okay. I got a motion from Mr. Costa to approve variances 1, 2, and 3 for case number V-23-068 with the 2 staff conditions, and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Shelley, can I get the next case? Okay, that's the end of the unfinished old business. Now we're moving into our new business section, so we'll move right into that. Ms. Shelley, can I get you to read the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-23-010, a variance to the accessory dwelling unit ADU requirements on urban single-family residential R3 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley, and this is Ms. Smith.
This is a variance for an existing ADU, accessory dwelling unit. ADUs are only allowed to be 50% of the size of the principal structure. This principal structure is an older house, and it is 1,223 square feet, which would only allow a 611-foot ADU. The ADU is 1,616 feet, and the variance is required to allow the structure to remain at this size. This is a garage that was converted into a 2-family dwelling unit. There is a code violation, and the applicant needs to get an after-the-fact permit to resolve that violation. The violation was discovered, I believe, during a roofing inspection, and the applicant is removing 1 kitchen prior to permitting the structure. The adjacent parcels to the north and to the south are both owned by the same applicant. These are large lots, and there are no complaints on file from any of the neighbors. It doesn't meet all the criteria for the variance, so we can't recommend approval. However, if you find that it does meet the criteria, we recommend 1 condition, which is to apply for an after-the-fact permit so that we can get the building permitted.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for staff? Ms. Smith, isn't this in the process of being changed?
We changed so that there's no maximum cap for large lots, and then you can have for large lots, you can have the ADU be located. You don't have to hide the ADU behind the house.
Right.
The issue with this is there's still that ratio of the ADU to the principal structure. As Trish stated, it's an old principal structure, 1,200 square feet. So
Well, that's what I thought we were addressing previously.
no, we addressed large lots, but we still kept to the 50% of the principal structure.
Okay.
So for the ADU in a large lot, you can locate them anywhere. And I think we removed the maximum cap
Yeah.
of 1,200 square feet, but it's the ratio to the principal is the issue.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. Ms. Susini?
Morning. Once again, for the record, Nika Hosseini with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard in DeLand. Mr. Chair, yeah, I had the same questions when we were going through this, and this variance has kind of dragged on because there were those changes coming. And again, it's the ratio that kills us. All the other variances that we had at one point were wiped out with the modifications that were made, but there's still this relationship. And so you have these really old structures. Both were very small. One was converted for a family member, hired a contractor, tried to do it the right way. That was referred to them. Contractor didn't pull permits for everything, which was unfortunate. Eventually, the contractor got fired, and I believe he was the one that actually called code enforcement. So it's funny, but it's sad.
Yes.
And frustrating. And so, you put your trust in someone that you assume knows what they're doing, and they take advantage of the fact that you don't understand the full process. And so really we're here because we want to apply for after the fact permits. We have an engineer. He's done all the as-built. He's ready to go. But we can't do that until we resolve this issue. And so, obviously we don't want to tear down the structure at this point. We would like to keep it. And there's nothing else around. I mean, if you look at the aerials, it's just this that's pretty heavily wooded around this area. There aren't any complaints. It doesn't look like, it doesn't look like this monstrosity or anything, but it is bigger than the other technical primary structure on the property. And so we don't technically meet the code requirements of that. So all we're asking for is an opportunity to apply for after the fact permits and get everything safely done and be able to move on and house a family member in need.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
You said family members, correct?
Member
One,
we're
singular?
only so an ADU can only have one kind of essentially residence, and so we're pulling out a kitchen and it'll house one family member.
Okay.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, do we have any public participation forms for this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to close the floor for public participation and open it up for commission discussion or a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I would, case D23010, I move it be forwarded with approval with the one staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor for, to approve V23010 with the one condition of the after the fact permit from Mr. Costa and Mr. Sixman, and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? I will say I thought that we had taken and was addressing the fact that because of some of our structures are smaller than others, that we weren't going to limit that to the 50%. I thought that was looked at.
The initial ADU regulations would only allow us to go up to 1,200 square feet. That's what we eliminated.
Okay.
But the percentage stayed.
But the percentage,
Yes, sir.
that percentage should have went out.
Well, we can make it, we can always amend it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, Ms. Shelley.
Case number V-23-074, variances to reduce minimum yard requirements on urban single-family residential R9 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Shams.
Hi, good morning again. This is Steve Shams with Planning and Development Services. So we did receive one letter of opposition that has been provided to you by Ms. Tucker. The subject property is a vacant through lot in the Bethune Beach area located between Turtle Mound Road and South Atlantic Avenue. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the west front yard from 25 feet to 10 feet for a single-family residence. And this is the front yard fronting Turtle Mound Road. The site is in the Indian River Lagoon Overlay Zone and is subject to landscaping and stormwater provisions. The site must contain 35% open space and provide a volume of retention equivalent to a ½ inch over the entire lot. The applicant provided a site plan that shows 2 access points from each roadway. a 392 square foot pool, and a concrete driveway from the home to South Atlantic Avenue. Overall, staff recommends denial as the site is one of two flag-shaped lots in the area, but it still meets the minimum lot requirement for the R9 zoning class, which is 7,500 square feet. There is no special circumstance for the variance. The variance results from the proposed structure itself. The applicant is responsible for the special for this due to the design of the home. Literal interpretation would not prevent the applicant from building the home in the pool. If horizontally constrained, the home can be built vertically to maintain square footage and adhere to required setback. The pool could also be redesigned. This is not the minimum variance. The applicant, in their application, drew comparisons to other properties, but these are not in the immediate area. The home is also oriented towards Turtle Mound Road, which is a busy county-maintained roadway. All neighboring homes are typically oriented towards South Atlantic Avenue, which is a local road with less traffic. The applicant's paved concrete driveway to South Atlantic Avenue covers a large area of the property with impervious surfaces, which may not be consistent with the local plan's requirement. If the driveway was removed, there would be a space to redesign the pool and shift the home to the east, and potentially not require the variances to the front yard. But should the PLDRC find the applicant provided competent substantial evidence, staff recommends one condition, that it be limited to the size and location of the single-family residence on the variance site plan. I'm available for comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shames. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Can I get your name and address for the record?
Good morning. My name is Robert Vega. I live at 6211 Turtle Mound Road, and I'm here representing Mr. Mark Marishak, who owns the property.
Okay.
If you look at the first slide, it just shows you that the location of the property and that there is no homes located to the west of the property.
Thought it was a PowerPoint, so I'm sorry, that's not going to do anything. Just tell me when to slide down.
Next slide down. Here's a view of the property. It's a flag lot, and staff was mentioning that we designed it so it faces Turtle Mound. In designing this, if we faced South Atlantic, we'd be looking at the back of the house that's behind us there. So my client thought it'd be best for us to face Turtle Mound. He also mentioned about the driveway. That's just all conceptual right now. I know I have to meet impervious requirements and stuff and retention and whatnot. That can be changed up, but this was just for this presentation. Next slide, please. This is some of the homes that are located. There's 8 homes that are in the 2 blocks, the 7,000 block and the 6,900 block. There's not one of the homes in these 8 homes that meet the criteria of 25-foot setback. Next house, please. I got a chance to actually talk to one of the individuals at this house and ask them if there was any complaints to them about how close their house was to the road, and they said they never had any complaints to it. One thing that I might want to mention to people that are in the gallery, that the setback only pertains to the lot line back and not the easement. You've got an easement that's 35 feet, so you're adding that setback plus the easement to the property. Next slide, please. And these are just some of the homes that are in that location that do not meet the setback requirements on the front of the front. Next slide, please. And here's one more. Next slide, please. And one more. All right, one more slide, please. So if you look at the proposed, like I said, this is just a schematic right now. We meet the side setbacks to the north, to the south, and to the east. We meet all of the setbacks. It's the front yard that we were looking to bring this forward. Next slide, please. if you see the location where the house is going to be located, it's that where the house is located, it doesn't impact any neighbor to the north, to the south, and there's no neighbor to the west. So when we build the house, it's not impacting anything as far as visual, constraints to them. Next slide, please. And this is what I want to show y'all. You have 6 homes in the 6900 block, and you have 2 homes in the 7000 block. Not a single one meets the 25-foot setback. If you look at your staff report on the page 3, you've granted 4 variances to this neighborhood on that street. Of the 8 homes that are there, 4 of them are less than 10 feet front setback. If you take the average of the 8 homes there, you come up with 10.5 feet as the average setback of all of the homes here. We're just looking for Mr. Marichak to, be treated equally and fairly, just like the rest of the neighborhood, and to keep consistency of the setbacks on Turtle Mound. That's my presentation.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Shelley.
I was just curious about, looking through my notes that I'd made on here, and I'm sorry, I'm not finding my comment, but do you have 2 driveways on that property?
They were looking to try to have 2 driveways to drive out onto South Atlantic. Like I said, there's requirements of retention, there's impervious. This was, the architect just came up with this initially.
That's one of the drawbacks I have, actually, looking at the other homes along there, that I wasn't sure about so much impervious surface.
Right, and we know we have to meet
they
that
have that.
criteria and stuff with the county, but like I said, just for the purpose of meeting y'all today and for the variance and stuff and doing some schematic designs for this. And could you go back to the second to last? That one right there. Of all the ones there, that's the only one that's a flag lot,
Right.
that's in those 2 last
Facing that way.
blocks of Turtle Mound.
That's really my concern on that, which is not what we're looking for exactly, but just
So
a
like I
comment.
said, you've got a situation where there's no home at all that meets the criteria.
No, I understand all that. That's not my issue.
Okay.
I'm fine with all of that.
Okay.
I would just prefer not to have the 2 driveways, or the one in the, thank you, just a
Thank you.
comment.
Okay.
Okay, we do have a public participation forum, and I will give you an opportunity to address any concerns that they have, so I may be bringing you back up. Okay, so I have Anela McGlatchy. If I can get your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Ellen McClatchy, 7088 South Atlantic Avenue.
All right. You'd like to make a comment on this?
Yeah, I actually wanted to read a statement, and I did submit an email yesterday. I tried to submit 2 videos. I think you only got 1. But Ms. Shelley, I did want to say that there are 2 driveways on that lot. And just to give you a little bit of the history of that lot, I do live right next door. To say there's nobody on either side. There are houses on either side. I live adjacent to that property, and I am probably a person most affected by any change in the setback requirements. The history, as I understand it from that lot, it was owned by a real estate agent and 2 real estate agents. There was a falling out, so they split the lot into what I call L-shaped lots, those flag-shaped lots. So there is, right now, there's a house right next door to mine. We face Atlantic Avenue, and our backyards face Turtle Mound Avenue. And the existing homeowner has a lot in front of his house and a lot that goes out to Turtle Mound. So there are 2 driveways. One comes in from Turtle Mound, and one goes out to Atlantic Avenue, and then he has a garage between where you can pull his boat out. So assuming they're not using the same driveway. I don't know. I haven't looked at their plans, so I don't really understand. I didn't even realize they were having a pool. But there will be another driveway now between my house on Atlantic and my neighbor's house. So there's going to be a lot of cement there, which will impact runoff. But with that just said, and I wanted just to address that particular purpose, I want to read my statement. I purchased my home in 2004. I'm an active member in the Bethune Beach community. I've been secretary of the BPPOA Homeowners Association for 6 years. And I think I've painted a little bit of a picture of my yard. I was trying to get you photos of it, but the two lots are side by side. They're long, narrow lots, and my house is on Atlantic. All of the houses actually on the 7,000 block are on Atlantic, and if there are some on facing Turtle Mound, I'm not aware of where they are, but they all, vast majority on the 7,000 block, and I don't think it's fair to compare us to the 6,000 block. Those homes are on Atlantic Avenue, and their backyards face Turtle Mound Avenue and have, by and large, unobstructed views of the Indian River. So people aren't building in their backyards, right, because they want that view. But the lot next door to me is now two lots. Two homes are being built on the same size lots as most homes there. And that house will be built in what would be my existing neighbor's backyard. I know that's hard to follow, but I just want to kind of paint a picture for you. And it will be a 3-story house, towering over my backyard. So I think I just wanted to describe that to you. Here are my primary objectives, objections, and the things I'd like you to consider when you review the applicant's request. First of all, they had prior knowledge. The new prior property owners were well aware of the size of the lot and the setback codes at the time of their purchase. Their decision to purchase a smaller lot with the knowledge of the existing regulations indicates to me a willingness to adhere to these guidelines. If they could not fit the house they wanted to build on the lot, they should have purchased a different lot. Impact of existing properties due to water runoff and flooding. The proposed construction of a larger house and a request to reduce setbacks may lead to adverse effects on neighboring properties such as my own. Specifically, the elevation of their property, the addition of fill, and now the request to reduce setbacks could result in increased water runoff, potentially causing flooding and erosion of my property. There is a swale, a very large swale on that entire
I've
block.
let you run over almost a minute, so we need to wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, precedent. There is some precedent to his point, but Bethune Beach residents and county officials know well that years ago there were exceptions and violations of setback requirements. Most homeowners regret those exceptions and certainly see no benefit in the community continuing the practices. And most of the photographs that he shared with you are on a completely different block of much older homes.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to cut you short. I've allowed you to go over. Yeah, you've went over a minute and a half.
I thought I got 3.
You did. You're
I'm over by
4.5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I started out by explaining that. Okay. Thank you. That was it. You get the point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
question for
ma'am.
her. I have questions.
Mr. Costa.
Yep.
Ma'am? Mr. Costa has a question.
I have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. Can we put page 11 of 18 up, please? And zoom in just a bit. All right, thank you. If I understood you right, you're adjacent to this flag lot?
Right, the south side.
You're on the bottom of the picture?
Yep.
Okay. And you said you've been there since 08?
2004.
2004, okay. The other question I have for you is the Bethune Beach Property Owners Association. Is that a mandatory or a voluntary? Voluntary. How many members of the folks who live in that area are members?
About 200 and...
Out of... Would you say participation is over 90% of the residents?
I have no idea. I don't know. I really don't know. 200 and something is all I know. I'm not actively the secretary. I stepped down a year ago.
Okay. You don't know how many active members there are for that particular neighborhood, and it is voluntary. What is their...
By the way, I'm not representing...
I understand. I know. I'm just trying to get a focus on, because we get these a lot. Especially this particular area. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we get a lot of people in here. Sometimes we just get one person or nobody in here. And I'm trying to understand how the Property Owner Association kind of plays in with all of this. If you being a former member, they don't at all. Okay.
No, no, no.
You guys are just for
I think
beautification and,
People who are served were the next door neighbors, the adjacent properties.
Got it.
Are the only ones who
Okay.
were notified of the,
does your property have flooding issues now?
yes, it does.
Which way does the water roll?
Had a picture, so everybody does along there. There's a big dip, right? And so
Mhm.
whenever it rains, a heavy rain, that
Right.
thing fills up. I have photos right here.
Well,
on my
Florida's a
phone.
swamp, so yeah, we're gonna have water everywhere.
Yeah, well, this is unusual because those lots slope down,
Mhm.
right? And so, and I have a photo right here that it would really help you to see that if you can look at it. I don't know if I can.
That's
share it with
okay. Well, I'm just curious, does
It
this,
fills up with water. All of the houses on that block fill up. All of the not the houses, I'm sorry.
does it slope towards A1A or does it slope
It slopes towards Turtle Mound.
towards Turtle Mound? Okay. All right.
And that is a swale. That's a,
That is-
there people have the big pipe with it, that their
So there's a
driveway
swale
goes
there that
over,
runs out to wherever it drains out to?
Runs into the Indian River.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Vito Lagoon is what it runs into.
All right. All right. That's all I got. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we have any other public participation for this case? Okay. I'll give the applicant a chance to come back and address any of the issues that was brought forward.
I live on Turtle Mountain, and I'm very aware, I'm a builder there.
Mhm.
I'm currently building a home on Turtle Mountain and Kingfish. I'm very aware that you're not able to impact your neighbors. So, I mean, when we do build, we take into effect whether we got to put a retaining wall that helps retain our water and stuff and retentions that are on the property. So, I mean, I'm very aware of what we're responsible for and not impacting our neighbors. I finished my home, my neighbors to the left and right. We had to elevate our home because I don't dictate the finished floor level. Basically, the finished floor levels are dictated by the county and FEMA and stuff. So I have to go along with that. But in doing so, we have retention on our properties to retain the water, so we're not affecting our neighbors to the left, right, front, and rear.
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
So on this, I'm looking at your site plan. You said this is a preliminary site plan?
Yes, it is.
Correct? So it's just conceptual?
Right now.
Because I don't see any retention on here.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
It's probably going to wind up, well, like I said, they're not going to be able to put that paved area there because of impervious and stuff. This is a-
You're talking about the long driveway down the flag?
Yes, sir. I mean, there might be a drive at some point for with gravel or something to.
Some impervious.
Some impervious,
Mhm.
but they won't allow that. And then we have to meet vegetation limits
Correct.
and stuff, and like I said, retention. So all of it has to come into play. This is just for me for the variance up front, pulling it forward, like I said, with the rest, to have a continuity with the rest of the homes that are on Turtle Mound.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if that being the case, your main point of entry currently is going to be
Turtle Mound.
Turtle Mound,
Yes, sir.
That's
The
the
front
address.
elevation is going to be Turtle Mound.
which is the bottom of this picture, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And so you're just looking at a potential entrance exit off of A1A.
Whether it's a pedestrian or whatever, like I said, whatever we get, once you do the calculations for your retention and stuff and everything, they just want to be able to access the beach and stuff when they leave their property and instead of walking around the block.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, it wouldn't have to be necessarily be a driveway, then it could be a pedestrian path,
it
something
could
as
be, like I
simple as
said,
that.
I have to, the architects
Sure.
have to calculate retention,
Mhm.
impervious, stuff like that,
Okay,
vegetation.
all right. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or motion. One of the things that I keep on falling back on, we're here to look at the variance, not necessarily the requirements for the pervious or impervious area. That's going to be dictated through the permitting process. So really all we're looking at here today is the variance one to the Turtle Mound there. And what I'm seeing here is is there a 45 foot easement there between the property line and the edge of the pavement?
There is an easement there, but we can't count that. That's for.
Well, I get that, but what
22.
I'm saying is it's there, correct? So, because I'm looking at the variance, I'm not looking at the retention and the height and all that, because that's out of our hands regardless. And so I'm looking at it, that home sitting from what I'm looking at here, 45 feet off the edge of the pavement. Is that correct, Ms. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I'm looking at. All right. Because I'm taking into consideration the variance, none of the other stuff. Because, I mean, you can't deny the person property rights of building on a lot, on their own lot.
I'm prepared to make a motion. We have no more discussion.
I was going to say one thing. I thought if anybody we get opposition from would be the homeowner on the north side. Because basically, it's going to be sitting right in their backyard.
Yeah, but still, this is a variance. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I'm just
yeah.
saying, looking at that right there, the house is going to be built right in their backyard. So I figured they would be here if they had a problem with it.
We've done these variances for this area on several occasions,
Yeah.
always with the same, that we have that large easement that's right there, that I know that it's not counted from the county's perspective, but I mean, from a realistic perspective, it actually exists. So,
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
all right. In that case, I will make a motion, case V-23-074, that we approve the variance with the staff recommended conditions. if any.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Costa to approve variance V-23-074 and a second from Ms. Shelley. And
There is one staff recommended condition.
there's one with the one staff condition. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Shelley, could I get our last case read? Oh, well, that's not the last one. Yeah, that last one's gonna be a while. Okay, can I get our next case, please?
Case number V-23-077, variances to reduce minimum yard requirements on urban single-family residential R3 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. And this is Mr. Shams.
Hi, good morning. Steve Shams with Planning Development Services. The applicant is seeking variances to construct an in-ground pool on a corner lot. The subject site is approximately 10,980 square feet, and it is developed with a single-family residence. Variance 1 is to reduce the west front yard from 30 feet to 25.3 feet for an in-ground pool and screen enclosure. And variance 2 is to allow an in-ground pool and screen enclosure to be located in the front yard. The lot is part of the Lago Vista subdivision from 1926, which led to the small lot size. A variance was approved in 2019 to reduce the western front yard from 30 feet to 20 feet for the single-family home. A variance condition made it only apply to the home and not accessory structure, which is why the applicant is here today. The applicant provided a site plan that indicates the western facade of the pool area would be in line with the home, and the pool would meet side yard setbacks on the north and east boundary. Staff recommended denial as the literal interpretation would not prevent a pool from being built in the available area, and it's not the minimum variance as the pool or concrete area could be reduced in size to meet the setback. Available for comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shams. Any questions for the staff?
I just want to, maybe I didn't hear you. Did you mention that a variance was approved prior in 2019?
Yes,
The
sir.
front? Okay. Must have been zoned off. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Can I get your name and address for the record?
Ryan Jones with Almighty Pools, 1297 Bramley Lane, here for the applicant. Basically, because we're just trying to stay symmetrical with the line of the property, that's 5 feet. And if we did that, the screen enclosure wouldn't have any place to attach to. We'd have to go even further back, which already would reduce the property, the deck side.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Let's see if we have any public participation forms. We do not. So we're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
I make a motion that on case number V-23-077, that we approve variance 1 and 2 to be consistent with our approvals back in 2019 with, well, there are no staff recommended conditions.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion for Mr. Costa to approve variance V 23077 and a second from Ms. Shelley. There are no conditions. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, their last big one. Yeah. Ms. Shelley, can I get the last case read?
Yes, sir. Case number CPA-23-009, large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, future land use element.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Smith.
Yes, sir. The county has been updating our comprehensive plan for the past few years, and you can see on the screen that schedule, and that is the schedule that we brought all of the items to the PLDRC and the council and when they were approved. We are bringing the last item to update to you today. It is our future land use element, and it is our largest element. Our evaluation and appraisal report is due to the Department of Commerce, which was the DEO, by October 27th, 2023. This was a two-part process. First, we updated the text of the document, and second, we held some public workshops to determine community preferences to see how they would like to grow in the future. We're currently limited to what we can update. This past year, the Florida legislature enacted a law which prohibits us from adopting more restrictive or burdensome comp plan amendments until October 1, 2024. And that's for any county or municipality located within 100 miles of where Hurricane Ian or Hurricane Nicole made landfall. So things like low-impact development, resiliency, green infrastructure that you've been hearing from our council and different committees over the past year, those would have to wait until 2024 for us to bring them forward. So as part of this update, we fixed grammatical errors and we updated outdated names. We used population projections to ensure that we have sufficient housing stock through the year 2035. We added a reference to the Florida Wildlife Corridor, and we copied a policy that addresses requesting administrative adjustments for future land use lines from the conservation element that had been previously approved by you all to the future land use element, just so that everybody is aware and it's right up front in the document and they know how to go about that process. We also copied sea level rise policies that had been previously approved. Those are in our coastal element, but we thought we should put those in our future land use element as well. One of the things we did was we removed a minimum density requirement from the urban low intensity, which currently allows 1 to 4 units per acre, and urban medium intensity, which requires 4 to 8 units per acre. This will assist people in rural areas who want to assemble smaller parcels into a larger homestead, but cannot do that because they have to meet a certain density. We also added single-family residences to the urban high-intensity land use designation for the same reason. We memorialized the remaining entitlements in the old developments of regional impact. Most of them have had their entitlements used by now. There is one remaining out there, Halifax Plantation, that has some commercial use left in it and a few housing units. We also removed repetitive policies that were already approved in other elements. And then we sent this to the Volusia County Association for Responsible Development for comment. We did not receive any comments back from them to date. We did not update. You may have noticed how large this document is. It includes a series of local plans that we have. We cannot update those local plans at this time, but we intend to move forward with that in the future and address the local plans that the council wants us to address. And so just a very brief summary of the workshop effort that we had. We heard the summaries on page 179 of the staff report, but the 4 major themes were too much development, save the environment, stop flooding, and improve transportation. So we do have that report in there, and that will go to the county council to see what policies we can add to our comp plan in the future. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for staff? I did have a question, well, not a question, and I think you answered in your presentation. So this element here does not necessarily address the concerns that our workshop brought forward, correct?
That is correct. It will be something that will be addressed in the future.
And we'll have an opportunity in the future to address some of those situations.
Absolutely.
All right. And basically, this is a cleanup just to get it to our requirement from the state.
Yes, sir. We must transmit this document by October, or we cannot do any administrative comp plan amendments. It will not hold up any developer-driven amendments.
Okay. And I guess the next question is that it doesn't limit us to a time frame to where we've got to adhere to this. I mean, we can always go back and it can be brought back forward for the council can send it back and have some adjustments made to this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Our ear cycle is 7 years. However, we have been choosing to update our comp plan as we see the need to do that.
Okay. That would be my biggest concern, because going through it, I noticed that the concerns were mentioned, but not a whole lot was addressed. So I just want to make sure that we don't paint ourselves into a corner to put on a time limitation. That's all.
We are actually preempted from addressing those at this point until 2024.
Yeah, that's what I heard you mention that. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Well, I thought this was going to be longer than what it is. We're gonna. Do we have any public participation on this? Okay, we'll close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion. Case CPA 23-009. Make a motion that we forward the comprehensive plan, find it consistent, forward to the county council.
Okay.
Recommendation for approval.
Okay.
For approval, yeah.
I got a motion for Mr. Sixsmith to find the amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and forward the application case number CPA 23009 to County Council with a recommendation of approval and to transmit to the Department of Economic Opportunity for State Coordinated Review and Volusia Growth Management Commission for certification. Is that correct?
Easy for you to say.
And a second from Mr. Patterson. Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, well, that wrapped that up. Big, lot of paper to. I tried to read it too. I emphasize try. Okay. That wraps it up for our new business. Do we have any other public items?
No, sir.
Any staff items?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
We have a variance V21055. It's a Montgomery variance extension that we are requesting. This is a variance that you saw in 2021. And Kelly, if you could give the next slide, please. This is located near Lake Winnemucet. And next slide for them to see it easier, please. You saw this variance in 2021. You approved a variance to a dock and a boatyard. And this was done as part of a property exchange between two property owners where a dock had been built on the wrong property. They worked out an agreement where they would swap property, and they had to combine their lots and establish those, and then they had to get building permits because this was an after-the-fact dock and boathouse and shed. The variance has expired. They have not gotten their building permits yet. Staff is allowed to extend a variance up to 12 months. This has exceeded that period of time. And so the PLDRC does have the authority to grant a variance for longer or shorter. And so we're bringing this item to you today to see if you would like to extend this variance or determine whether they should get a new variance.
Question.
Yeah, Mr. Carson.
What kind of circumstances were involved in the delay? This weather related, legal related? What was the delay here?
According to the applicant, there was high water and they were unable initially to get in there and do the surveys that they needed to do. I believe there were some issues with finding someone who could do the plan so that they could apply for the permits.
Okay. All right. Those are all reasonable.
Okay. I didn't know you were done, right? Also, I did run into Mr. Montgomery a while back, and I asked him how it was going, because I drive that back section, like Linda said all the time. It's a very unique piece right there. He said that he was having a lot of problems with engineers getting stuff to him. I was like, I can relate to that one, but I know that was part of it also. How much more time does he need, do you know?
There is a pending building permit, and this is what's holding up the building permit at this time.
Yeah.
So, this is the last step in that permit approval process. So if you could extend it for three months,
So we
he
need
would
to-
have time to get it through the process.
We need to make a motion to extend it.
Yes.
Can you go back to the first page so I know what number this is, please? Which variance, right there. All right. I'll make a motion that variance V-21-055, we grant an extension of 12 months. Is that plenty? Or do you need less?
This is an after the fact permit. We would ask maybe for a shorter period of time to ensure that it gets done.
3 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let me amend that motion. That motion is for V-21-055 to extend the existing variance an additional 3 months.
Second.
Okay. 3 months or 90 days?
90 days, 3 months. Yeah, 90 days is fine.
Okay. All right. I've got a motion on the floor to extend V-21-055 for an extension of 90 days for that variance from Mr. Costa and a second from Mr. Sixma. Is that correct, Mr. Paulo? Is that all we need?
That's it? That's all you need?
All right. All those, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any
Thank
other
you.
staff items, Ms. Smith?
No, sir.
Okay. Any staff comments?
No, sir.
Any commission comment?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Back when I first joined this commission, I requested and you graciously obliged me, and you brought forth a couple of different departments and kind of gave us a rundown of how they operate and what they do. We're seeing a lot more CPA applications and PUD applications and subdivision applications. And while I'm very familiar with the process, I don't think that all of our members are. Is there any chance that in one of the next open sessions that we have a light session that we can potentially get somebody from that department to explain to us, to walk us through the process of going from say a 50-acre parcel into a subdivision itself and what it takes to get there?
We would be happy to do that for you. We would ask that it not be at the next meeting because you have 15 cases to review.
No, I said next time we have an open. I mean, anytime and whenever you think that we've got a light, like this would have been a perfect one, but I didn't think about that until now.
Yes, sir. We'd be happy to do that.
All right, thank you.
Is there anything specific you'd like us to be enlightened to on that?
Just the general process. I mean, I know the process, but there's a lot of moving parts that I don't think we understand, that we need to understand, because we are making these decisions based on what we know.
Okay.
And if we don't know those details, I mean, short of going through and memorizing Chapter 72, you're not going to know it all.
Right.
And that's why if we get a brief, sometimes when you get just a brief synopsis from that particular department, at least it gives you an overall umbrella of how it operates.
Okay. Any other commission comment?
I would say that I commend you for doing a fine job running these meetings.
Well, thank you. What does that mean?
That means you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Keep it up. Yeah, no more 2-month vacation.
Hey, let's keep that quiet. Okay.
Even though Mr. Bender did a fine job too. So.
Any other comments from the commission? There again, I want to thank Ms. Craig for joining us today. Hopefully you'll fit right in and feel like what's going on. It's kind of like formal, informal a little bit. We don't push a button to speak, but I do recognize you if I see you down there wanting to go at it. So feel free to add a comment anytime you'd like. And there again, I appreciate you coming on board. Okay.
Ms. Craig, if I guess it's open to any PLDRC member. If you would like, we can kind of provide you like a one-on-one orientation, kind of describe, I don't know how familiar you are with the various legal mechanisms of land use matters. I can do kind of a crash course on a one-on-one, or if the commission wants to, I can do a presentation before the commission. I mean, you've been at this for a while, so you kind of know it, but there are some things that just kind of oddly pop up sometimes, so I'll make myself available to offer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Any other comments for the commission? Any press and citizen comments? This meeting is adjourned. I'm surprised.